Hello and welcome to Soundlot, where today we're going to look at Sing For Absolution. We're going to look at all the sounds I use throughout this song from start to finish, looking at the delay settings, the distortion, and how the kill switch interacts with the delay at the very end of the song. So let's look at guitar first. It's the Manson MA2 Evo with Sustainer. So with the introductions out of the way, let's get into pedal cam and how these sounds really work. We're going to look at the patches we're using in this preset. From start to finish in patch A, we're using the whammy pedal. It should be on. The delay and phase 90. Patch B is just the overdrive distortion pedal. Patch C has the whammy, fuzz factory, big muff, and the phase 90. D has the whammy, blues driver, delay, and phase 90. To kick it off, let's look at patch A with the effects that we have turned on. So make sure where everything's turned on properly. So it sounds like this. So what's in this patch? We have the whammy set to a harmony octave up, which gives it that kind of twinkly tone, and the phase 90 just at a fairly slow rate, but the delay is where everything's really coming together. We get those nice repeats that mirror how the piano work in the studio version of the album, so we can hear that if we just listen to it. There's a few extra repeats on that just to kind of give the sound a bit of depth, but the level is turned all the way up, so that first repeat is just as loud as the first one, as the actual note played in. So without it, it sounds like... It's obviously with the delay. Really adds a bit of depth. Taking out the whammy, what does that do? Sounds a bit normal, sounds just like a normal boring guitar, but adding that extra higher octave in that harmony really makes it stand out, sound a bit more like a synth if anything else. And then the phase 90 is just adding that nice slow modulation over the top of it, just to give it an extra sound, an extra dynamic to it that just makes it kind of make it feel a bit more kind of sci-fi. And the intro of the guitar is just doing that melody. Then the vocals come in, I'm just playing the chords over the top of that very gently underneath the vocal track. Using the exact same settings, nothing's changed. I just may roll off some of the initial gain from the guitar using the volume pedal, only because at that section we want it to be quite subtle. We don't want that to stand out, because the opening bit on the guitar is where you really want that to stand out. Then rolling off a lot of the gain or the volume with the volume pedal helps it kind of like pull back into the mix and just kind of sit there as a texture, if anything else. So that's it. It's the same setting throughout the whole verse, right up into the chorus. So let's get into the chorus. So, as we can see, the on the distortion pedal itself, it's rolled all the way over to overdrive, and there's only a little bit of drive at about almost 10 o'clock, just to give it a bit of crunch. It's not meant to be overpowering and be right in your face. I only kind of dial that in only to get a good, nice kind of rhythm tone, not be too standoutish, and it's just there to add a nice sort of texture for the guitar. I mean, let's roll all of the drive off, see what that sounds like. It just needs a little bit something, just a bit of rumble to bring it out, because it's sort of quiet in the mix. There are other things going on during the chorus. So it's not got a huge amount of sustain on it. The drive is just enough to get it to poke out a bit, but not be too out there in the mix. And an overdrive is a lot better than having a full distortion setting for it. So let's try that. The sustain really kind of picks up there, and it lingers there a lot longer with all this kind of like harsher, higher tones, and it really doesn't sit very well. And I much prefer the duller tones of an overdrive to kind of decay away a lot quicker and be a lot more kind of mid-tony, kind of a mid-frequency level that really sounds kind of nice. After the first chorus, it then just goes seamlessly back into the verse. So let's just see what that sounds like. And then it just does exactly the same again. I may play the chords the same as the verse, but I might strip it out even more and just play the kind of the notes of what the kind of piano is doing, which is just. It's just the little stabs that kind of do help it stand out a bit, but it's not such a big sound that it really dominates. It's kind of just quick stabs that sound quite good, and then the second run round of the verse, then maybe bring in those chords again. Purely just for something different to play. The song is fairly straightforward in terms of its structure and what you really play on guitar, so having the opportunity to change up and play around with what's going on can be quite fun. So we come out of that, go into another chorus, and then we go into the kind of like bridge solo section. I don't even know what you'd want to call it, but we do that. And in the build up to that, instead of doing individual picking, I like to kind of start strumming it, which helps ramp up the sound a bit. So. The settings I like to use for this section is pretty much just the big muff. I take out the fuzz factory just because it tends to have a harshness towards the kind of the higher end, so I take that right out. Normally by this section, the phase 90 and the whammy have been taken off, because up until this point we've had tones that kind of sit kind of quietly in the mix, or only kind of come out in stabs. This is where the big in-your-face tone really comes in. You can, and sometimes I do keep the phase 90 in, but it's purely for just how I feel. which sounds like... It's a texture that's quite good, but the main thing is the big muff that's really coming through, and the whammy is taken out because the higher octave offers kind of provides a sound that I don't think really fits very well for that, and bringing it to a low octave just adds, I think, for on the whole of what this song is, a bit too much. So let's just see what that's like. It doesn't make the higher notes in that stand out as much, because the lower octave really kind of pulls that D, that note D, pulls it right down frequency-wise into that lower octave, so that's why I prefer to do that. So then after that, we then go back into the kind of the vocal section, and I tend to go back onto the overdrive and use that. Section is switching over to patch D. In this preset we've got the whammy, blues driver, phase 90 and the delay. The whammy is off and so is the phase 90 by this point. It's just the blues driver and the delay. The blues driver is only in there to add a bit of extra drive and bite to this section so that the notes just stand out. They've got a chance of being heard in the mix basically. And interacting with the delay, it sounds like this. Simple as that. The delay settings are exactly the same as they were at the beginning. The same level of repeats, the same amount of feedback. And if you've got a kill switch on your guitar and you want to achieve that sound, having the sustainer really helps to maintain or sustain the notes that you want for as long as you need them to. And just having the kill switch bring out the signal in the right rhythm pattern as the delay works every time to keep this going. And those are all the tones I use for Sing For Absolution normally. There are other ways that I do play it. I do use my Chaos Pad occasionally for playing this. It completely removes the need for... So we strip out that sort of sound and just have a more generic delay sound. Let's see what that sounds like with the Chaos Pad. Right, so here we are with the Chaos Manson, so we're going to be using the sustainer to hold the notes as we go up the neck, and the Chaos Pad for manipulating the synth effects within the Chaos Pad itself.
Get ready, everybody. He's about to do something stupid.
So that's how I create my sound for Sing For Absolution. We looked at the delays I use and how we incorporate the whammy and the phaser with that. We looked at the kind of stripped back overdrive tone for the chorus, how we use the big muff for the heavier section in the song. At the very end, we looked at the blues driver and how we couple that with the delay, incorporating the kill switch to kind of create that sound towards the end of the song. So I hope you enjoyed that video. Please do let me know if you want me to go through any particular songs that you'd like me to dive deep into how I create my sounds for those. But until then, I'll see you next time.